Welcome everyone and good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar of the Future Classroom Lab titled Transform Learning in Your Classroom with Intel Skills for Innovation. My name is Konstantinos Andronikidis. I work for European Schoolnet and I have the pleasure to be your host today. Before we start introducing our speakers, as we normally do, and for those that do not know us, European Schoolnet is a network of 34 ministries of education, and our goal is to support education stakeholders in Europe and beyond in the transformation of education processes. The Future Classroom Lab is an initiative of European Schoolnet and an inspirational learning environment in Brussels, challenging visitors to rethink the role of pedagogy, technology, design in their classroom. Today, our webinar is organized in collaboration with Intel and Lenovo, two global technology companies. Both Intel and Lenovo are partners of the Future Classroom Lab, and we are very happy to be joined today by experts who will introduce us to the Skills for Innovation initiative, the collaboration between Intel and Lenovo, and some of their newest activities and offers for teachers. Without further ado, I welcome online Luigi Pessina, Director of Education Programs and Strategy, as part of Intel's Global Education Center for Excellence. Luigi will introduce the Skills for Innovation initiative and activities. And I also welcome Delia De Corsi, Lenovo Worldwide Education Portfolio Manager, who will delve into the question of why teacher professional development matters. Finally, we welcome Scott Campbell, the Global Director of Teaching and Learning for EdMaker and Project Manager for Intel Skills for Innovation, who will show us how anyone can engage with the Skills for Innovation platform, share insights from teachers that have used the platform, and give us an overview of the starter packs. In particular, Scott will also present the newly launched starter pack on ChatGPT and enhanced lessons. And he also will be joined by a teacher, Semi, who is a Skills for Innovation ambassador from Turkey. After their presentation, we will have the chance to spend some time to address any questions or comments you might have. So feel free to share your thoughts on the platform that you're watching us. So without any further delay, I welcome you all to this webinar, and I give the floor to Luigi to start with the presentation.
Thank you, Konstantinos, for the introduction and for hosting us. Very excited about this opportunity. So let us get started with the content, and I think we can move to the next slides, directly to the content slide on where we are with trends that are impacting education, and we are seeing a lot of transformation happening in education today. So first of all, there is a strong rise of artificial intelligence, which is becoming extremely important for our society and for education overall. We are estimating that a 15 to 25% surge in AI integration will happen within educational processes. And with that, almost 44% of educational institutions have planned to incorporate AI, which is really showing the importance of this technology trend for education overall. Then we have the metaverse. That's another game changer. Virtual reality learners show also an impressive 275% surge in post-training skills confidence and are 4 times more focused than traditional e-learners. Then we have gamification and esports that are also energizing education. Gamification results is really remarkable in terms of how it is improving student performance. And esports is also helping prepare students for careers and fuel engagement. Finally, we have blended learning that's also enhancing outcomes and improves student impact. And here we see a significant boost in the performance of K-12 students, where we see a stronger inclusive education strategies. So in a nutshell, these trends, the AI integration, the metaverse, the gamification, the evolution of blended learning are really reshaping education profoundly. Then, and that's mainly why we have created the Intel Skills for Innovation program. We want to support students with skill sets and mindsets that are helping them build up skills for the future workforce. And we're going to look into more details of that in the future presentations. But here I wanted to show you that we have built up a platform with a dedicated learning management system, which is including professional development and starter packs, content. These are lessons plans that teachers can integrate into their lessons plans. This content is available for you for free, and Scott will drive you into more details about the content. But before we do that, on the next slide, you can see the overall status of the program today. The program is available in more than 47 countries. We have more than 50,000 teachers that have already engaged with the platform. The content is available in multiple languages, and this is really an opportunity for you to engage with this professional development content and availability for you to develop the skill sets and mindsets that we need for the workforce of the future. With that, let me just hand over to Delia to talk about professional development and why it matters. Over to you, Delia.
Thank you, Luigi. Great to be here with all of you. And I'm going to be speaking to you just for a few minutes from the perspective of a former educator. So I was a teacher and administrator for 25 years before I joined the Lenovo education team. And so when we began to talk with Intel about partnering on this program, I was really excited because of the quality of the materials that you're going to learn about today, the professional development and the lesson resources, and also because the content in both the PD and the lessons is really currently relevant. It's, I think, really important. So having done a lot of professional development as a teacher, spent many hundreds of hours doing professional development and also facilitating professional development with teachers, especially in the last part of my career in education around educational technology. You know, I understand how quickly technology is developing. And I think since the pandemic, we've seen that in particular. There's just this rapid rise in innovation. So what you see on the screen here are the key emerging technologies in industry. And as educators, we're primarily concerned with preparing our students for the world that they are going to graduate into. And so now we're challenged to prepare them to understand and even to drive the kinds of technologies that you see on the screen. So I know that when I look at something like drones and autonomous robots, I used to think, oh, well, those are technologies only used in the military. But now we see drones being used in real estate to take videos of properties that are for sale. Or if you think about artificial intelligence, used to think about that as in industry, you know, high power computing, but not in our everyday lives. But with the development of ChatGPT, we're seeing it used across all industries and even by students in middle school and high school. So we also see the Internet of Things infiltrating our homes and our appliances and our personal assistant technologies. So these are the technologies of now. And so what that means is that as educators, we need to understand them and incorporate them into the teaching that we're doing so that our students are prepared. So in the next slide, what I want to just talk a little bit about is how the European Commission is thinking about this changing landscape and what it means for the citizens of the EU. And so there are targets that have been set around digital skills, and you may be familiar with these. The European Commission is calling this the digital decade. And they just released a report recently to say, this is how we're doing so far in this decade around these targets. And one of the key targets was around digital skills for citizens ages 16 through 74. And the goal is that 80% of citizens will have basic digital skill competency by, 80% will have that by 2030. But right now there is a lack. 2 in 5 Europeans of that age bracket lack these skills. So on the next slide, you'll see what those targets look like. And I think it's important to note that these targets that the European Commission has set yes, they're concerning digital skills, but there's also targets around government and infrastructure and business, right? So there's this big push around innovation and making sure that the EU, the economy is competitive when it comes to all of this digital transformation. So with the goal of basic digital skills at 80% minimum of the population by 2030, and then for IT specialists that 20 million are trained and employed, and that there's a balance between men and women in that field by 2030, that's a very admirable goal. Now, right now, there's an acknowledgement that if no further action is taken, if we do not prepare the population, only 50% of the population will master those basic digital skills by 2030, and that the number of ICT specialists will not exceed 12 million by 2030. So there is important work to be done around preparation, and that includes preparation of our students, and so in turn means professional development for teachers so that they can help with that charge. So on the next slide, there's another statistic that notes more immediately that there's a tech talent gap in the EU of between 1.4 and 3.9 million workers. And that's by 2027, which sounds far away, but it's not. It's within the next 3 years. And so, again, there is this need for us to prepare our students for the world that they're going to be graduating into. So on the next slide, what we're going to look at is very concretely the kinds of jobs that our students globally, the jobs that are declining in terms of availability to our students, and then the jobs that will be increasing in the coming 3 to 4 years. So on the left-hand side, what you see are the jobs that are in decline, jobs like bank tellers, postal service delivery. And what you probably notice on the left is those are jobs that can be largely automated. And so they're in decline. But in that middle column there, where it says 69 million, so this is these are the jobs that are increasing in need. And at the top of the list is AI and machine learning specialists. Further down the list, you see digital transformation specialists. So these jobs all map to that first graphic that I showed of the emerging technologies in industry. And so fortunately, we've got the Intel Skills for Innovation program that helps with the professional development and then the lessons needed to start to integrate these technologies into our classroom. So on the next slide, I just want to sort of make an acknowledgement to there are concerns around artificial intelligence, of course. There's a lot of unknowns out there. And that is a primary emerging technology that we're all thinking about, working through, dealing with. And Scott is going to be talking to you about the AI, one of the AI and ChatGPT related lessons that are that's in the Skills for Innovation platform. I'm going to highlight that. And I do just want to note that artificial intelligence will not replace people, but probably what is likely is that the people who know how to leverage AI, specifically generative AI, those are the people who have that skill set. They're the ones who will be in a position to get those jobs that are out there that are more readily available. And so we need to prepare our students. And when it comes to those technologies, they're more likely to be able to accomplish and be successful in those entry-level positions. So just a parting thought in terms of the importance and the relevance of the professional development and the lesson resources that we're sharing with you today. With that, I'll hand it off to Scott.
I am really excited to talk to everyone about the Skills for Innovation platform, the Skills for Innovation program. One of the things I want to make sure that everybody understands, I know that we probably have a mixed group in here where we have some people who have never used Skills for Innovation before, where we also may have some people who have used Skills for Innovation before. I hope that everybody is able to pick up some things here that's new that you can bring to your classroom, to your school. As you heard, I'm the program manager for Intel Skills for Innovation. And I think the biggest thing just to pull out before we get started into things is just a reminder about that map and how Skills for Innovation has impacted teaching and learning for students around the world. It's amazing being able to see teachers use technology in ways that they never thought possible before on basically every continent. So again, this is just me backing up what was already said. Really, when you see the change here in the move of the skills that kids need to have from these physical and manual skills, basic cognitive skills, to these much higher cognitive skills, tech skills. And you'll see in the Skills for Innovation program, that heavy focus on social emotional skills, you're going to see a number of opportunities for kids to engage in real world learning experiences. Now, if you've never had a chance to dig into Skills for Innovation before, let me give you a little bit of laying the groundwork. First of all, we're going to take a look at professional development, and we're going to look at the Intel starter packs. And you're going to see this underlying piece of social emotional learning, as I said, that you're going to find throughout the entire platform. You're also going to see specifically when you start looking at those starter pack activities, that design thinking and computational thinking mindset being very targeted and coming out in what's learning in the classroom. And then additionally, and this is the part that's really exciting, I think, for people, the opportunity for teachers to learn and to be able to teach their students to use programming and coding in the classroom, data science, modeling and simulation, AI and machine learning. AI is such a big push right now, and this program gives you as a teacher the opportunity to be able to use this with your students. As you've seen before, okay, these are the different pieces that we have available with SFI. We're going to be really focused on these starter packs and the professional development and how they all live within the platform that we're going to take a look at very shortly. Now, this is a look. If you go to skillsforinnovation.com, this is the look that you will have once you have created an account. Now, I'm going to take everybody or talk at the very end about making sure that you're able to create an account with the code that we have so that you will have access to the program. But what I want to do is just spend a little bit of time going directly to the platform so I can share with everyone some of the really awesome things that are in Skills for Innovation. Now, realizing again that I have an audience here that may not have ever seen this before, I want to share with you some of the really great highlights. First of all, the Skills for Innovation program really lays out into two specific parts: professional development and starter packs. Just to give you a very high level overview of the professional development. This professional development is asynchronous. So what that means is you as a teacher might want to upskill and learn how to use technology in your classroom with your kids, and you can work at your own pace. Most of the courses take about 6 hours to complete. There's some exceptions, but most take about 6 hours. And they're also differentiated based upon what your skill level is in technology. So adaptive technology is mostly for a teacher who really hasn't had access to technology before, whereas leader of learning experiences is where most teachers seem to start, or this level 3 catalyst of creative confidence. So just to kind of give you an idea of what's in each of these levels, let's say I'm a teacher who is pretty tech savvy, and I can still get a lot out of this level 3 catalyst of creative confidence. This course, this level has 3 courses in it. Now, it's differentiated. You do not have to go in order with this. You could pick any of these out. Each one takes about 6 hours to do. And within each of these, you'll see that they're broken up into 3 different parts. And each of those 3 parts will have videos, tutorials. They're going to have the opportunity for you to get hands-on to learn about that particular concept. These are the 3 topics that make up that course in analytical thinking through data: collecting and using problem-driven data, mapping relationships with data, and facilitating data-driven discussions. So you would dig in with each of these, go in order. Takes about 6 hours to complete. Learn as a teacher how to use data in your classroom. And then by completing the tasks that you need to complete in here, you would have the opportunity, just to kind of give you a quick idea here, of going up and getting a certificate or a digital badge that you can then use for further education, to share on your LinkedIn account. So here you go. Here's what a certificate would look like after completing one of the Skills for Innovation courses. And again, just to sort of give you an idea, a high-level look at what those courses look like. We have the 4 levels, and most of the levels have 3 or 4 different courses to pick from. And then again, each of them will have a series of tasks for you to complete as you do videos, engage in the discussion board, and then ultimately you'll have the opportunity to be able to share your thoughts and then also complete your task to get your certificate in professional development. And we're running a little bit slow here. Let me try one more time, and then we're going to move on to the starter pack activities. Here we go. Let's take a look at the starter packs. Now, the starter pack activities, the professional development is meant for you to be able to do on your own to upgrade your teaching experience with using technology. There's a section in there for using AI as a teacher. And one of the great things about professional development is it gives you so many options to use as a teacher. The difference here is the starter packs are, and I'm just going to say, a growing list of activities that you can use with your students. Now, one of the things you should check out right here that we'll come back to towards the end of this presentation is that we've taken some of the starter pack activities and used ChatGPT as a tool for it. One of the things that teachers seem to be intimidated by, and we don't want them to be, is how can I use ChatGPT in a positive way with my students that it's a win-win? And this starter pack activity that we're going to take a look at is a great example of that. Now, each of these activities, if I show you some of the options here, elementary, middle, and high school, they fall into one of those 3 areas, but I always let everyone know, many of these, most of them, can be adjusted and used at other grade levels as well. There's a number of middle school lessons that I've seen used at elementary and at the high school level. Subject area. Even though we have these different subject areas teased out, I always like to point out that these are all very cross-curricular. And in terms of what you might see, you may see math, technology, engineering, language arts, science, history in all of these subjects, or most of them. Again, you have here are your 2 mindsets. And here are your skill sets. This is the 2 things I really want to point out to everybody. Number 1 is the types of software that are used throughout all of these activities. So you have an ability as a teacher to engage your students and try out all of these softwares. Now, to answer a question, and I know I always get, these are things that are not connected through the system. So for example, if you wanted to use the starter pack activity that included AI Dungeon, which here's the 2 that include that, you would need to take care of signing up or downloading AI Dungeon for yourself to get it. I do want to point out, though, that for all of these activities, that the software for this is free in order to do the lesson along with the actual Skills for Innovation program itself. So there's no cost with it. Secondly, the thing I want to point out here that I think is really valuable is, and let me just X out of here. When I when I go up here to the languages, these are all the languages, and this is constantly growing, of what the starter pack activities are translated to. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out there that not all of them are in every language. So you would need to go in here and say, let's say I need an Italian starter pack activity. I would be able to look and see these are the 12 that have an Italian translation done for it. But again, this is constantly growing and more translations are being added. But this really just shows how this is being used across the entire world. Finally, one point I want to make here, we're going to be getting into AI role-playing soon and looking at this ChatGPT lesson. But I do want to point out to everyone that all of the materials that you would get with these starter pack activities come in a downloaded folder. So you would be able to download this as a zip file, and then you would have access to all the materials that you need. Now, what I want to do for a moment here is I want to finish sharing my screen. Let's see here, stop share. And Semi, do I have you with me yet?
Yes. Hi, Scott. Hello.
Hi, you want to do a quick introduction of yourself, Semi, for everyone?
Okay. My name is Semih. I'm a science teacher. I live in Turkey. And hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Semi, I also want to say, is one of our EUN competition winners that we had.
Yes.
Did a really nice job with the starter pack activity. I will tell you, Semi, I don't think we're going to be able to do the video that you had created, but if you wouldn't mind starting by just talking to everybody about the starter pack activity that you did do and what some of the great takeaways were for your students.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Can you repeat the question, Scott? Sorry.
Oh, sure. I was just asking you if you could talk about the starter pack activity that you did do with your students and what some of the takeaways, what were some of the aha moments that your students had with doing the lesson?
Okay. Sorry. Okay, yeah, thank you. I chose the activity called Catapult Toss from the starter pack, which was about force and motion. Before implementing the activity, I downloaded all the documents related to activity, and I reviewed the guide, presentation, teaching objectives, and learning outcomes and software to be used. This was very useful, I think. I was nervous about using the Unity for the first time, but I got help from the IT at my school. And before implementing the activity with my students, I first tried all the steps that were intended to be done on Unity myself. First, we did it and a hands-on activity where my students designed their own catapults. We played tic-tac-toe with the catapults and they designed. In this hands-on activity, I waited for my students to discover the variables related to catapults. Then I introduced the catapult application designed with Unity to my students in starter pack. To be honest, at this point, I had doubts because I was worried whether my students would be able to use this program. However, my students adapted to the program very quickly. They easily fulfilled given tasks. Thanks to activity, we effectively observed all the variables, for example, gravity, speed, mass, and spring force, launch, angle, something, affecting the concepts force and motion through the catapult. At this point, I would be very grateful if you could share my video, or can I share it too?
Sure. Let me stop sharing. I was just showing where the catapult video was. Can you see if you can actually present at the bottom, or perhaps Konstantinos has the video?
I tried to put it here, but the Wi-Fi doesn't allow me to both stream that and share the video. So if you want to share, you can try, and I can put it.
So you could try at the very bottom is the present option, Semi, to see if you could actually show it.
Okay, I try. Wait a minute. And can you see the video?
Here we go. That was extremely impressive. Do you want to remind everybody how old your students are?
10 on 12.
10 to 12. Yeah, that's amazing. So that, and just let me just say for everybody who's watching, like that's a great example of like something really impressive that a 10 to 12-year-old could do in the class. And I think it kind of leads into this question is, since you've done that with your students, like let's see how to ask this. How now can you continue to use those same skills to use Unity moving forward with other classes?
Yeah. I want to implement many of the activities in the starter pack in my classroom. I also want to take a part in PD courses for my personal and professional developments. Both increase my interest and excitement about my profession. And students, I will definitely continue to use this activity since it has made a positive contribution to the development of my students' information, communication, and technology skills. They helped each other during the activity, and they were in continuous communication. They use their creativity and imagination. I believe that these things should happen in every classroom. Therefore, in my classes, the development of digital skills and the use of technology will be more in the forefront.
Excellent. Thank you, Semi. And I think the thing that he mentioned, that you mentioned, was at first you were talking about being a little, nervous about
Yes, yes.
using Unity for the
Unity,
first
yes.
time. But
Yeah.
I mean, and again, Unity is one that most people consider one of the more challenging softwares, but you managed to do a great job, and it was an amazing product that your students did. So excellent. Kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
So I want to thank you again for sharing. I think it's really great for everyone to see that. And I'm going to hop back in, and I'm going to kind of focus now with the starter packs again. Thank you again, Semi. So what I'm going to do, that's a great example of how you can, like, even if you don't consider yourself a technology expert by any means, you can take the starter pack activities and really upskill yourself with using technology, get your kids excited about using technology in the classroom. Let me present my screen again here for everyone. And I had actually shown this where I was showing the catapult tosses. This is actually the lesson, so everyone can see that that Semi was actually doing with his students. One of the things I really want to point out here to everyone is that along with all this information on these landing pages, something that you have to help support you as a teacher is this beginner's guide. These beginner's guides to the softwares and programs will really help to support you throughout doing this with your students. So you don't have to feel intimidated or nervous about doing this with your students. Now, what I want to really feature here is our brand new starter packs that we have. We have Pathos, Ethos, and Logos, but now we have AI role-playing. Now, there is a non-ChatGPT version, and there is a ChatGPT version. So this starter pack is brand new. Shows you as a teacher how you can use ChatGPT in the classroom. And here's the great thing about it. Once you've done this with your students, you'll know how to use ChatGPT. Your students will know how, and you'll be able to apply this to many other classes, many other subjects, many other lessons that you're doing in class. So you can see this lists out as being high school, young students as well. I just want to point out here again, everything gets downloaded for you in a zip file. And I want to make sure everyone knows what's included in that zip file. All of these zip files include an educator's guide and a teaching deck. And there'll also be beginner's guides and any working files that are needed. So not only do you have the lesson itself to present to your students, but you have an educator's guide that you can lay out that will help guide you through every slide of the lesson. So again, even though you don't have that deep background and experience with it, this educator's guide helps support you with teaching this lesson and activity for your students, like I'm sure the catapult toss lesson did for Semi. So let me transition back. And I just want to focus on a few of the items about the starter packs. First of all, 70 activities with 140 hours. Well, that number's grown since then because we've actually not only added our ChatGPT lessons, but we've also added partner lessons as well. So other organizations that we partnered with have added activities. Lots of things with simulation and modeling, lots of things with AI that you can use with your students. Here, as I said again, an educator's guide, a teaching deck, a working file, and maybe even most importantly, and not even on here, is that beginner's guide for you as a teacher. Broken up into these levels, but honestly, I tell everyone, please don't get hung up with the age. And I know in other countries, this elementary, middle, high model is not necessarily used. That's fine. There's an incredible amount of flexibility in the grade levels and the ages at which these starter packs can be used. And this gives you an idea to see all the subject areas. And again, very cross-curricular. Now, just to give you a few highlights, because I have to stay really high level with our AI role-playing lesson. You see it's listed out to be 120 minutes. Honestly, this works much better, I think. 30 minutes to 45 minutes a day over a period of a week or two, and like a project where your students are going to actually be able to present a role-playing adventure at the end. Let me hit on some of the highlights. Now, each of these items that are here are also in the teaching deck itself. Here you have introduction to role-playing. What can we learn from it? So this is the way you'll see most of our starter pack activities start. You're going to be introduced to a real-world learning situation, a real-world problem. In this case, students are going to be introduced to the concept of role-playing. And you'll see that there is a video that's going to help to lay out for students what role-playing is. There's also a number of slides that address what role-playing is. And again, that will be in that teaching deck if you go in and download it. And this is just one of those slides. I also point out, because I know we have an audience from many countries, that many of these YouTube videos, if not in the language, allow closed captioning in whatever language you may need to use with your students. Sorry. Then the next thing we get to, I didn't want to get into the video right now, is artificial intelligence in ChatGPT. So we haven't learned yet. Kids sort of know what ChatGPT is, or they may not. They may have a little bit of information about artificial intelligence. We've learned about role-playing. Now the activity takes us into learning about artificial intelligence and starts to make that connection for students, even though it doesn't go explicitly in the ChatGPT yet. So this is going to be the next thing. We've now built that part. Now we're going to build this part. And more so than just the video, there's a lot of opportunities for you to get hands-on with their kids, to have them practice things, to learn these new concepts. Next then, the students will actually have a video. So we've learned about role-playing. Now we're going to learn about artificial intelligence, and we're going to learn about ChatGPT. And this is a big one for students. And the big thing now is being able to take ChatGPT and embrace it as a teacher, embrace it as a student, and the possibilities of how you can use it in a positive way with your students. I like to use the example that I have a daughter who is her first year at a university, and she has a project due now where they want her to use ChatGPT, and she's supposed to use it to develop a project for the class. That's the advantage of being able to use this in a positive way. So students learn next about what ChatGPT is. Once they've had a chance to do that, then there's a series of slides, and this is helpful for the students, but it's also very helpful for the educators as well, that helps them to become familiar with the ChatGPT window and walks them through all of the different pieces and how you can use it to actually use ChatGPT, and lots of suggestions. So there'll be a series of slides to help support you to actually use ChatGPT, and you can use this, and you can use this with your students as they practice and go through. And again, the educator's guide that goes with this helps support you through every one of these slides. Now, once the students have had the chance, and again, this is that same pattern that you see. Walks you step by step through ChatGPT, walks you step by step through role-playing. Now it's going to allow you or help you to be able to actually create a role-playing activity using ChatGPT. And the nice thing about this is there's a ton of flexibility with this. Even though this says language arts, if you're a science teacher, this role-playing activity could be with scientists or people who made famous scientific discoveries. If you are a history teacher, this role-playing narrative could be with 2 historical characters. So there's an amazing amount of flexibility in how you could actually do and bring this role-playing narrative in. Now, once the students have the opportunity to be able to use ChatGPT and learn about role-playing, they're actually going to create this role-playing adventure. And again, you're going to be supporting them along the way. This is the part I think is really powerful with this, is allowing your kids an opportunity to present their role-playing adventure. You could have students do this individually. You could have them doing this with a partner. You could have them doing this in a small group. It really works any of those ways that you could do it. But it's really nice to be able to actually have this as a project where there's a presentation at the end. And the really powerful part about this activity is that it's not necessarily about the project itself. It's after it's over. You now, first of all, as a teacher, you know how to do role-playing activities in other classes and other lessons. But now, again, you can take that tool, ChatGPT, and use it in future years with future classes. And the students know how to use ChatGPT in a positive way in the classroom. So that is the AI role-playing lesson. And just to kind of go back to the actual platform here for a minute, just to share. Again, here is our AI role-playing ChatGPT lesson. And you can see here, this is considered computational thinking. This is natural language processing. And to just show again where I got this from, right here it was on the landing page. And what I would tell you is this AI role-playing lesson will continue to grow with the number of translations that it will be available in to use with students. That's something, like I said, keep coming back to that. More languages get added all the time. And this is a really good look at some of the topics that are available. Notice the real world learning opportunities and experience and social emotional learning experiences that are here. Anatomy of safety, recognizing fake news, making sure that there's enough food for everyone to eat. So now, if you are interested, I want to make sure here at the very end, before we go to questions, that we're clear on how to get access to the Intel Skills for Innovation platform. So just highlighting again, skillsforinnovation.intel.com. skillsforinnovation.intel.com. And then registering in the upper right-hand corner. And then it will ask you for the registration code. And that is where you're going to want to, at that point, put in your code, which will be Lenovo SFI. Once you put in that code of Lenovo, you'll fill in that demographic information. You'll then get an email, which will allow you to get access to the starter pack activities. You'll have access to the professional development. And you'll have access to everything that's available on the platform. So as I move back into our main presentation, we have 10 minutes left, which is exactly what I wanted to be able to have for us to be able to handle questions that the group might have. So is there any questions? And Konstantinos, if you have any questions, that worked out perfect time-wise to be able to handle some questions.
Indeed. Thanks a lot, Scott, for this very, very insightful presentation and for showing us exactly how one can register and also go through the material. We have a lot of people joining from all over, well, Europe, but also the world. We have also some people from Thailand, for example, Israel.
Wow.
And some people were asking about the link before you shared it. Just to mention that in Europe, it's not .com, it's .eu, I think. At least the one I
You're
found.
correct. You're correct.
I'm also adding Delia and Luigi here in our discussion. And you mentioned that anyone to register, they need the code. So this code remains active forever, or if somebody doesn't have a code, what happens?
So, and again, I have the rest of my team here to help back me on this. This code should be good as long as someone wants to use it. We say it's good for a year, but typically once you're in, you have access. That access will continue on. But again, the code is Lenovo SFI. And if I type in the chat box, would that go out to everybody if I type it in? Or
I will put it, yes.
Okay. Yes. So it's Lenovo SFI is the code. And again, that site to get access is skillsforinnovation.intel.eu.
But we have a question, for example, what if I register without a code, somebody asks? Is that possible?
You have to have the code. So there's no strings attached with using the code. You just have to have the code to be able to get on. And what it does for us that's really nice is, again, as the administrator, one of the administrators of the program, it's nice because then I can go on and see how many people are using that code that joined us for this particular event. So it's really nice for me to be able to track and see how people are actually using from Skills for Innovation from all over the world. Because that's one of the things you see on there is how it's being used globally.
Okay, understood. So everyone that is watching and is interested, they just need to use the code, and let's hope that it remains active.
It will. Yeah, it's not going to be a problem. Konstantinos, could you also include, since you're putting things in the chat, my email address if anyone has any questions?
For sure, or we can add it also afterwards on the page of the webinar. So
let's do that. Let's do that then.
It's easier so anyone can access you. Indeed. Okay, that's great. And you mentioned that everything is ready and all the kind of the material is ready for the teacher to use. So is it something that the teacher can adapt, or is it already kind of made script? So is it more a lesson plan or kind of a scenario that they can adapt further to their own courses? How do you usually suggest it to be used?
Okay, so here's my suggestion for everyone. So for example, that AI role-playing lesson that I did, or let's take the catapult toss lesson that Semi talked about. You could take that and plug that and play that right away with your classroom for your, like he said, he did it with 10 to 12-year-olds. However, you may find when you go in there that you want to do that with older students, your 16, 17-year-olds. So you may want to adapt some things with it so that you can do it for older students. That's a great example where if you as the teacher wanted to guide the kids more, you could adapt and do it with even younger students. So there is that educator's guide is a lesson plan to use, but it's certainly flexible for the way that you as a teacher want to use that with your students. And again, the one thing I want to point out with that, everything is ready-made there and ready to go. The only thing that's not included, but again, it's free, would be to actually get that software on your device, whether it's downloaded or web-based, so you can actually then do that lesson with your kids. So like for the example of Unity, the lesson that Semi did with Catapult Toss, that was one that had to be downloaded. Whereas I believe for the example of the one that I just showed with AI role-playing, ChatGPT is a web-based program that you as a teacher can just sign up for free and use with your students.
Of course, these are third-party, I guess, platforms. So the teachers should manage their own subscriptions. Definitely. Well, thanks a lot for this. And another question that I think is really important to mention here is, of course, you have a lot of starter packs available for teachers to choose from, but many of the teachers, as we know, when they think of starting while exploring professional development opportunities, especially with the use of technology, they don't feel comfortable to delve into the kind of the deep waters, let's say. So do you have any ideas of which of the starter packs might be less complicated or ideal for teachers that do not feel very comfortable with using technology?
Okay, let me give a couple suggestions. Now, keep in mind that every teacher is a little bit different. I'm not going to make a suggestion of starter packs as much as I'm going to make a suggestion of some of the softwares that I found that are easier. So some things that are easier is anything that includes Scratch is usually, I've heard people say is easier to use. Scratch, pencil code, CoSpaces. The global, and now I'm getting into a little bit with the starter pack activities. Clean water is a favorite one that I do with students. Are You Happy? Global Forest Watch, which is real investigating wildfires, that uses Global Forest Watch GIS, is a great entry level lesson for people that are trying to learn to use GIS with their students. Those are just a few. But I say that though, and SEMI was a great example. People say that Unity is one of the more challenging programs in there, and yet he was able to pick it up and do it with his elementary students. And to be fair, that's, I've been told, is one of the more challenging programs in there.
Thanks a lot for giving some interesting suggestions. A question now for perhaps Luigi or Delia or both of you. Someone in the chat is asking, when we say skills for innovation, can you please give some examples? Are we talking about problem solving or something broader? So what do you want to achieve perhaps with the program overall? Is it what kind of skills do you want people to develop or students to develop? Luigi, Delia. Luigi, you are muted. Just
here I am. Yeah, so when we developed Skills for Innovation, our main idea and concept was to focus on developing skill sets and mindsets that are needed for the future. And here we have focused on 7 skill sets and mindsets, like social emotional thinking, computational and design thinking, programming, coding, simulation, AI, and machine learning, in order to make sure that, well, kids are really prepared for the future. When we look at these skill sets, we are looking as well as developing some competencies like problem solving, as you mentioned, or collaboration, teamwork, creativity, which are all also needed in the jobs of the future.
So it's both soft and hard skills, let's say.
That's correct.
And when it comes to the collaboration with Intel, Delia, what kind of skills would you see or would you wish people to develop and you want to achieve with this collaboration?
So Lenovo's role, Intel is bringing the professional development and lesson resources to the table. Lenovo, as one of the largest device makers in the world, we help supply the technology. And so part of what we want teachers to be aware of is that with the changing requirements, with for example, the software that Scott's been talking about, that can mean that students and teachers need more powerful devices to be able to engage with these kinds of software. So it's something for the teacher to be aware of. Also, as students and teachers are engaging with things like video conferencing and they're multitasking on their devices, they probably need more powerful processors, right? And Intel powers a lot of our Lenovo devices. So that's an awareness that we want people to have as they're engaging with the lessons and the professional development. You need to have the right device for the kind of skills that you're developing in order to be successful. So it's part of the tool set.
Indeed, of course, and as the technology grows, we also need to adapt with it. I think we don't have any other questions, and I think we're on time. So I would like to thank you, all three of you, four of you with SME before, for joining us, and all the participants of today's webinar. And we hope you had a chance to learn more about the possibilities that exist with Intel Skills for Innovation program to further develop your skills and competencies. Just to let you know that the webinar recorded will be posted shortly on YouTube on the same link that you're watching now, and you can share it with others. And it will also remain on the website of the Future Classroom Hub, where you can check out previous webinars or future opportunities for webinars. So once again, thank you all three of our speakers, and all of you that participated. Make sure to follow us on social media, and see you next time. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.